ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's debate. My name is Oyi and I'm the chairman, and Emily is the timekeeper. The adjudicator is Miss...
No, there are three of us.
Miss...
Mr. Watlow,
Mr. Watlow,
Mr. Hemsley and Mr. Hewitt.
Mr. Hemsley and Mr. Huey, sorry. The topic of this debate is that Adelaide should welcome Uber. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Westminster School, and the negative team seated to my left is Pulteney Grammar School. The speaking time for this debate is 6 minutes. A single warning bell will sound at 1 minute before the speaking time, and a double bell will sound at the speaking time. A continuous bell may be rung 30 seconds after the speaking time, in which case the speaker must sit down immediately. Please ensure that your mobile phones and other electric devices are switched off. I declare this open and call upon the first affirmative speaker, Hayley Rao.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for this debate is that Adelaide should welcome Uber. As the affirmative team, we strongly agree with this statement. I would now like to define the topic. We define should welcome as cordially or willingly permitted and embraced as agreeable or gratifying. Uber is an on-demand service that connects passengers with drivers or vehicles to hire or rides to share through a smartphone app. Uber is also referred to as ride-sharing from a legislative viewpoint. Rideshare was introduced in South Australia on the 1st of July 2016, allowing private vehicles to be used to provide a transport service offered to passengers through an accredited booking service, generally through a smartphone application. Adelaide is the capital city of the state. Adelaide is capital city of the state of South Australia and has an estimated resident population of 1.3 million people. As first speaker tonight, I will speak to you about two main points. Firstly, how we need to embrace the future. People need to be aware of Uber. Secondly, how Adelaide is in the top 10 places to live in the world and people expect Uber to be here. The second speaker tonight will be speaking to you about the efficiency and convenience of Uber. Her second point is talking about the cost of Uber and how it's an effective service. Our third speaker tonight will rebut and sum up our team's case. Now to my first point. Adelaide needs to embrace the future and a new way of life. We have the potential to change the way transport systems work. According to the legal South Australia legislation, more than 60% of Uber rides start in transport deserts locations that are not within an 800-metre radius of public transportation. The Uber app is a geolocating technology to connect a company to the nearest driver. This is a quick new way of life that we need to embrace. In today's society, new technology and new concepts are necessary to move forwards. It is embarrassing for SA that people can come here for an arts festival, say, and not be aware of the existence of Uber because no one knows about it. We have many new thriving technologies. Tonsley, for example, Australia's first new innovation district is connecting businesses with the best and brightest. It is a driving change in the tight, focused, vibrant and dynamic environment. It is all about connectivity and innovation. The types of people it's attracting will expect enterprise like Uber to in fact be embraced. Successful business broadcaster John Foreman stated that the worst thing in South Australia is that people don't want to talk about their successes because heaven forbid that you're successful in South Australia. We need to embrace Uber to reverse this type of thinking. Now to my next point. Adelaide being the city of the future. Adelaide is one of the world's most livable cities in the world. In fact, we are in the top 10 cities, and for this reason, tourists expect Uber to be here. We are a wealthy city with a small population. We have lots of new arrivals, and it's a great opportunity for them to start up businesses, whereas if you have to buy a taxi licence, it turns into an extraordinary amount of money. Adelaide is positioned well. Australia is a wealthy nation, and Adelaide is a wealthy city. There is no better time to embrace Uber. We are able to utilise new technologies and new services like no other city. We have the capacity to do it, we have the will to do it, so we should do it. In conclusion, Adelaide is not embracing the future, and to be the city of the future, we need new innovation and technology. People expect Uber to be in one of the world's most livable cities. It's ridiculous if it's not. There have been more than 10 million Uber X rides ordered through the smartphone app since the ride-sharing service was launched in Australia in 2014. It has been found that the service is cheap, safe, and more economical in the future. It has the potential to revolutionise the way transportation systems work. Just what we love in Adelaide, opportunity and choice. Thank you.
I call upon the first negative speaker, Neha and Freya.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chairman, Timekeeper and fellow debaters. My name is Neha and I'm the first speaker for the negative team. The topic for tonight's debate is that Adelaide should welcome Uber. We agree with the definition given by the affirmative team, but would also like to add that we define Adelaide, or the area of Adelaide, as the metropolitan suburbia surrounding the Adelaide CBD, as well as the actual CBD itself. And we would also like to add that when we are talking about welcoming the Uber service, that we are also talking about Parliament legitimising Uber. We, as the negative team, strongly believe the topic to be false. Today's first speaker, I will be speaking about how the Uber business actually puts a lot of other people out of business, like taxi workers. I will also be speaking about the economic impacts of legitimising Uber on Adelaide, and about how some people don't really have proper access to using Uber. Our second speaker, Josh, will be speaking about the safety risks of using Uber, and about how basically anyone can become an Uber driver. He will also be speaking about how taxis already have legitimate registration that is clearly visible, whilst an Uber does not necessarily have that. Our third speaker, Ned, will rebut the other team's arguments and sum up our team case. Before I begin my arguments tonight, I would just like to address some of the points made by the first speaker of the affirmative team. So the first speaker of the affirmative team has said that we will change the way that transport works by embracing Uber in our society, and that Uber is a new way to connect people as a transportation service. We certainly agree that Uber is a new company and a new transportation service. However, we would also like to recognise tonight that taxis actually do the same thing as Uber, and as I will talk about later in my speech, taxis are accessible to all and not just those who are tech savvy. So we won't actually be changing the way that transportation works. We'll just be basically replacing taxis with an industry that does pretty much the same thing. She's also said that we should be embracing Uber due to technological changes, and that we need to embrace the future. And like I said, that I'll discuss later, not all people actually have access to Uber, such as the elderly generation, who wouldn't really know how to use Uber properly because it's a smartphone application. My first point tonight is that the Uber business is actually putting a lot of other people out of business, like taxi services. What we would first like to identify, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Uber business is essentially the same as a taxi service, with a few minor differences. Both are transportation services that carry passengers from place to place on their request. Whilst this service is certainly a useful thing for many people who do not own a car or just need a lift, we also need to consider that legitimising the Uber business may in actual fact put people like taxi drivers out of business. After all, they're basically the same thing. What we're essentially doing, ladies and gentlemen, is replacing an industry with the exact same industry. Apart from the price difference, we're not really changing anything about the taxi service. And I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, is displacing many hard-working individuals with a business that does exactly the same thing really worth it? Why on earth should Parliament bother legitimising Uber? Yes, Uber is cheaper, but cheaper is not always better. We are talking about realistically displacing about 1,300 workers for basically nothing. And we are not replacing these workers with more taxi drivers. We are replacing them with literally anyone. The process of becoming an Uber driver isn't really that hard, and we are putting many out of jobs for the sake of putting other random individuals into it. Parliament should not be legitimising Uber, and we should not be welcoming Uber in Adelaide. My second point tonight is about the impacts of Uber on the Adelaide economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to consider tonight, what is Uber actually going to do for our tourism industry? Actually, what economic benefits are we gaining from Uber at all? Apart from the fact that paying for an Uber is cheaper, our actual economy doesn't gain much from welcoming Uber. If the government is going to have to subsidise taxi drivers because of the introduction of Uber, then we need to consider that this money is actually coming out of taxpayers' pockets. We'll be paying extra money for a business that we already have in taxis. That is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. Think of everything else that we could be doing with that taxpayer money. And let us also consider that the actual target audience of the Uber business is not a large range of people. Consider our older generation, who already struggle with it as it is with technology. Now imagine telling them that the only way that they're going to be able to get from place to place or get a lift is by using a transportation service that is only available by the use of an application. I certainly know that my grandmother and even my parents have trouble doing simple things on their smartphones like texting, and they would certainly struggle with using an application on their phone just for a transportation service. Whereas taxis, you can just call up. Uber is not accessible to everyone. And you can't even book an Uber in advance like you can with a taxi. Literally, you can only use an Uber from spontaneously getting from place to place. And often this is not what the older generations use taxis for. The Uber services are only targeted towards a certain demographic. And why would we legitimise a service that not everyone can use? We should not be welcoming Uber in Adelaide. We don't get any economic benefits from it, and we may even lose money. Ladies and gentlemen, I have told you tonight about why we should not welcome Uber in Adelaide. We would put many people out of business, and there are no real economic benefits from it. The Parliament should not legitimise Uber in Adelaide, and we should not be welcoming it. Thank you.
I now call upon the second affirmative speaker, Emily Reid.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic under debate tonight is that Adelaide should welcome Uber. We, the Affirmative team, strongly agree with this statement. I would like to start my debate tonight by rebutting the negative team's case. The first speaker on the negative team has tried to tell you that Uber will cause the loss of jobs within the taxi world. Ladies and gentlemen, losing jobs in the taxi world could simply be because taxis have just become too expensive for society to afford. In fact, if taxi drivers lose their jobs, then they could simply apply as an Uber driver anyway. They would already have the qualifications necessary to become an Uber driver and simply apply for their new job. She also tried to tell you that anyone can become an Uber driver. Ladies and gentlemen, Uber driver applicants have to have their driving skills monitored and they're detected about their braking and acceleration and speed, and Uber can monitor the Uber driver's performance to protect the consumers who use Uber as a service. Uber drivers must go through a rigorous safety process to become a driver. They have to hold a commercial driver's license, have national police checks, and have their driving history reviewed. The first speaker also tried to tell you that Uber is the same as a taxi service. Ladies and gentlemen, while Uber has the same goal as a taxi service, it is a much cheaper and more convenient option to a taxi, as I will discuss later in my debate. Lastly, she also tried to tell you that the price difference between Uber and taxis aren't a big deal. Ladies and gentlemen, cost is always a big deal in society today. Anybody would appreciate having a cheaper and more affordable service for transportation. She also discussed how older generations will struggle to use the Uber technology. Society today is moving forward with paying with card and using apps and new technologies. We're not saying that people have to use Uber as their form of transport. It is a personal choice. We're simply saying that Adelaide should welcome Uber. People still have the option to use taxis, pay with cash, and not have to use an app to order a form of transport. I would now like to summarise our team's case tonight. Our first speaker has spoken to you about how Uber is embracing a new way of life in Adelaide and future technologies. She discussed how Adelaide is a city of the future and we should begin to utilise our wealthy economy. As second speaker tonight, I'll be talking to you about how Uber is a convenient and efficient mode of transport, as well how it is a cost-efficient service. Our third speaker will rebut and sum up our team's case. My first point is about how Uber is a convenient and efficient form of transport. Uber uses an app where consumers request drivers from anywhere and wait for a notification to say that this Uber driver has arrived. In busy cities, like Adelaide, Uber drivers arrive in less than a minute. Adelaide should be welcoming this type of convenience into its city. Using Uber means no more waiting on a phone line for taxi services or standing at bus and train stops waiting for transport to arrive. Consumers should be given this choice to a more efficient form of transport. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, according to news.com, Australians can save up to 800,000 hours a year just by catching an Uber instead of a taxi. Using Uber means no more fumbling around for cash because a simple credit card payment through the app is all it takes. There are strict policies that prohibit Uber employees to access rider or driver's data, so it is a perfectly safe payment process. As our first speaker has already stated, this convenient payment method and convenient transport method should be embraced and welcomed into Adelaide, as it is a new innovative technology that can improve the society and the city by embracing a great new way of transport. It allows people to go out and socialise without thinking about booking cabs in advance, finding parks, or even organising train times. This leads me on to my second point tonight. Uber is a cheap form of transport. This is one of the main reasons for the growth of the service's popularity. According to the Little report, Uber trips in August in 2015 within other cities in Australia were almost 20% cheaper than rides in taxis. In fact, the total savings for Australian passengers who choose Uber over taxis was $31 million per year. Uber is the new competition in the transportation world, stimulating Adelaide's economy. Uber could even be seen as the budget airline in the taxi world. Why would we not want to welcome such an admirable transportation method? In conclusion, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're headed to work, to the airport, or out into town, Uber connects you with a reliable ride in less than a minute. One tap on an app and a car comes directly to you. Your driver knows exactly where to go and payment is completely cashless, therefore convenient. Uber drivers have rigorous safety testing and cars are inspected for roadworthiness. People living in Adelaide now have access to a safe, reliable and cheap form of transport. And now Adelaideans also have an additional source of employment, and environmental and economical benefits are a huge potential for the state. This is why we, the Affirmative team, strongly believe that there are valid reasons as to why Adelaide should be welcoming Uber.
I now call upon the second negative speaker, Joshua Miscani.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, chairman, timekeeper, and the opposing team. My name is Josh, and I'm the second negative speaker. The topic for our debate tonight is that Adelaide should welcome Uber. And as the opposing negative team, we wholeheartedly disagree with this topic and believe that this statement is false. But ladies and gentlemen, let me rebut some of the opposing team's points. The second affirmative speaker said that Uber monitors performance and check how drivers, let's say, brake and steer, and they go through all the relevant and necessary assessments to make it safe. However, UberX doesn't call for this requirement, and in the end, how will braking and steering save the life of someone in an Uber car and keep up with SA driver standard educations, which are the best in the world? Furthermore, drivers also aren't psychologically tested, therefore it potentially compromises the risk to passengers. Also, ladies and gentlemen, the second affirmative speaker said that Uber is 20% cheaper than taxi rides. Well, ladies and gentlemen, how does the Uber service then contribute to our tourist economy? And ladies and gentlemen, like our first negative speaker has said, how is cheaper better? How is cheaper better and safer for passengers in the community? That's what we're concerned about here on this side of the argument. Our first speaker, Neha, has already stated that introducing Uber will wipe out the taxi business and potentially many jobs and many qualified people. Neha also spoke about how Adelaide won't necessarily gain from tourism money and introducing Uber. Lastly, Neha also spoke about how some people won't be able to access Uber should the taxi industry fall due to Uber's introduction. Tonight, I'll be talking to you about how Uber driving isn't the safest option for you or an Uber driver. To my first point now, ladies and gentlemen. How safe are Ubers? How can we be assured that when you and I go into an Uber car, that we will be physically safe within our surroundings? For passengers, this is a big deal. We wouldn't let a pilot on drugs or who hasn't done the appropriate training required or background checks to take us from our origin to our destination. It simply wouldn't be accepted. So why would it be different for Uber drivers? Ladies and gentlemen, in an unregulated environment where Uber drivers aren't regularly tested for drugs and alcohol, like in any other workplace, and unlike taxi drivers where employers test them, how would you now feel in an Uber? Pretty unsafe, eh? Ladies and gentlemen, these are the realities you ultimately face when you step into the car of an Uber driver. Unsure, unregulated, then it's unsafe. Ladies and gentlemen, for example, here in Australia, a woman left an Uber vehicle after she realised there was someone waiting in the back trying to strangle her. And ladies and gentlemen, guess what? The woman wasn't able to get the registration of the Uber because the Uber wasn't marked externally on the car. Therefore, they couldn't find the number and report them. Also, in Montgomery in USA, someone was killed as a result of an Uber driver drunk driving. Ladies and gentlemen, as a city and a state who prides itself on the best driver education in the world, in the entire world, why would we damage our reputation? I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way we can take the risk. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, Uber drivers are not externally marked with numbers outside their vehicles, like I've mentioned. So should anything happen to you while in an Uber, and you don't happen to get the registration on the little dashboard, then how are you to report an incident that happens in an Uber car? Your safety is at grave risk. Ladies and gentlemen, to my second point, it is also dangerous for drivers of Uber. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes people who pick you up off the street can be dangerous. Sometimes they can be violent. In a taxi or a bus, there are CCTV cameras to capture a violent event so that perpetrators are brought to justice and are rightfully brought to justice. In an Uber, however, there are no cameras. Clearly, ladies and gentlemen, Uber can attract violent and potentially illegal activity. Uber drivers who have no legal protections and no cameras won't help. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing to dissuade people from being violent towards the drivers and passengers of an Uber car, and should that occur, people won't be brought to justice. Ladies and gentlemen, there are far too many inherent flaws in the Uber driving system. So how come we should welcome it in this state? Ladies and gentlemen, how can we trust and welcome a service that puts your safety ultimately at the highest risk? Why should Uber be treated differently to other transport services when it has inherent flaws? So ladies and gentlemen, if you're unsure, it's unregulated, then it's not safe. Thank you everyone for your time tonight.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker, Jack Pulteney.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic under debate tonight is that Adelaide should welcome Uber. We, the Affirmative team, strongly agree with this statement. Before I summarise my team's case, I'd like to point out a few flaws in the opposition's argument. The opposition's first speaker spoke extensively about the potential negative economic impacts of Uber on our state economy. I'd first like to point out that the fact is the economic benefits are huge. Any economist would tell you and support the claim that increased efficiency and increased market liberalisation decreases costs and increases the benefits to all. Efficiency leads to a better allocation of resources across the board, leads to lower costs for consumers, and thus more disposable income across the entire city and the state. This income can be spent in new industries, such as the tourism industry, the restaurant industry, and the services industry. This is a common and agreed upon theory in economics and should be supported by Uber. The opposition's first speaker also tried to claim that Uber was just the same as any other taxi service, and the fact is this is just wrong. We are debating whether Uber should come into this city tonight. So the fact is this isn't just another taxi business, this is a completely different service, and that is why we are debating it. Uber is a service which is much more open and liberal and enhances efficiency, comfort and convenience at lower costs. She also tried to claim that Uber, just like any other taxis, are accessible to all and as would Uber be. This fact is also not true because taxis are quite high cost. and travelling long distances is often unavailable. This creates a system of discrimination in taxi systems that is completely unintentional but is always there. The price is too high, and this disables people with low incomes and low income section of the community to use the taxi services and removes them from this ability to travel around the city with ease. Uber will provide a much better way and equality across the city for people to use transport services. The opposition's first speaker has also belittled the ability of the elderly to adopt technologies and utilise services. This is an extremely offensive claim that old people are unable to use a smartphone and doesn't fully represent the ability of our community to utilise new technologies. The opposition's second speaker has claimed that, has questioned the economic benefits of Uber. And as I have already stated, cheaper prices lead to widespread economic benefits across the state and throughout, and increase the amount of disposable income that people have to spend. The second speaker also extensively questioned the safety of Uber drivers. Contrary to his claims, Uber drivers do undergo a large amount of background screening. Criminal records are checked, motor vehicle records are checked, the sex offender's record is checked, and the social security record is checked. The smartphone technology also has a system of review that enables people to review drivers if they are being unsafe and puts them at a low point system so they are banned from the Uber system. This is not an issue as such of Uber, but as of unsafe drivers within Uber. And the fact is that Uber has a huge amount of success stories across the globe, and that's why it is a functioning and thriving business. The few negative examples that he brought up don't tell the whole story and should be disregarded in this debate. The issues and problems that will arise out of safety will largely be self-correcting, because the public ire that comes from any issue of safety or regulation will then be replaced by the government, which can step in and protect citizens from any future issues. And we're not saying that people have to use Uber. If one is feeling unsafe about it, there always is a taxi service or other transport services available. No one has to step into a car that they don't feel safe using. Ladies and gentlemen, our team has made the strong case to you tonight. Adelaide should embrace Uber. Our first speaker has already spoken to you about how embracing a new way of life and future technologies. She also spoke to you about Adelaide being one of the world's most livable cities, and that tourists expect Uber in one of the world's most wealthy and evolving cities. Our second speaker has spoken about how Uber is good for consumers. It is convenient, efficient and cheap. Uber will stimulate the economy and encourage people to go out and socialise without thinking about fees and transportation problems. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it clear to you, Adelaide should welcome Uber. This city has the opportunity to welcome and embrace new technologies and services, to become a national leader in this sector, and to enter a new age of connectivity in transportation. Uber has the potential to revolutionise city life in Adelaide and open the public transport service up to so many disadvantaged people. Uber is a safe and reliable system of transport, as has been shown across the globe. Adelaide has the potential to welcome Uber and couldn't be better positioned to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, Adelaide should welcome Uber.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Ned Fury.
Ladies and gentlemen, Uber should certainly not be welcomed into Adelaide, and we hope tonight that our team has enlightened you as to the reasons why not. Before I outline our team's case and summarise it, I would like to rebut some of the opposition's arguments. A common thread through their arguments has been that it will be cheaper, and that is therefore better. But cheaper is not always better. People are willing to pay a premium price for a premium service. This is the reason that we have spent quite a lot of money on a new hospital, rather than simply allowing our health service to retain its current services. It's the reason that people spend money on flying with Qantas instead of flying with Tiger. In fact, the opposition's second speaker has referred to Uber as a new budget airline. But budget airlines aren't always profitable, aren't always getting used, aren't always safe, and aren't always good. It's the reason that people buy safe cars, like Volvos. Yes, Volvos are good. And we like safety. It's a human need to feel safe, secure. It's why we are still alive, and that is important, and that is what we need to ensure that we feel, and why we shouldn't allow Uber in, because we are not safe with Uber, as our second speaker has demonstrated to you tonight. The opposition's first speaker has said that we need to embrace the future, and spoke at length about how Adelaide is a technologically advanced city. And while having just visited Tonsley, I'm not going to debate that that is indeed a fantastic facility and that we are ready for the future, although it still looks a bit like a Kazakh wasteland. But there are still people in our society who are still lagging behind, and though their third speaker has attempted to address that, elderly people or older people, and indeed some younger people, still don't like using technology because it has moved simply too far from when they grew up, what they are used to. It is outside their comfort zone. And this disincentive to travel, if they had to use Uber to travel and had to use an app and had to use technology, this would be a disincentive to travel. This means that then they wouldn't get out as much. And old people who get out much less are much grumpier, as my grandfather will attest. The opposition's first speaker also said that it would be embarrassing for Adelaide if tourists came here and there was no Uber. But tourists wouldn't all have compatible phones with Adelaide's mobile network, and then they wouldn't be able to access Uber, and then they still wouldn't be able to get an Uber, so they'd still need a taxi or a bus or any other form of public transport. So hence, they would still we wouldn't be embarrassed by it because they wouldn't be able to use it. The opposition's second speaker said again that taxis were too expensive and that that's why the taxi business was going out of business. But as I've already said, cheaper is not always a better thing. We are willing to pay premiums for premium services like taxis. They also said that Uber can monitor many things about braking and such like, but what they don't monitor is but they don't do a very comprehensive background check, as per many of the sources which we have found. In UberX, for instance, they don't take a fingerprint check, they don't even require a meeting with drivers before they are employed. How do we know that our Uber driver is in fact who they say they are? Identity fraud could well be rife within Uber. We may well have many people who are entirely different to who they say they are on Uber. They talk about the rigorous safety checks, but you only need a normal driver's license to run on UberX. I know I wouldn't like to get in a car with me driving, but certainly that's not, yes. Anyhow, they said that old people, or elderly people, sorry, I keep referring to old people in defensive terms, I should really stop doing that. Older people could still use taxis, and that's a point that their third speaker has also reiterated. But if taxis had gone out of business, as our first speaker has spoken about, then they wouldn't be able to use a taxi. And then what would they do? They also said that Ubers were quicker, but you can simply hail a taxi off the side of the street. I'm yet to be aware of being able to hail an Uber, since they are unmarked, as our second speaker has spoken about. There are usually lots of taxis in taxi ranks outside the Supreme Court and Central Market. That's not the Supreme Court, that's the District Court, never mind me. And the railway station, and indeed the airport in Adelaide. And you can book a taxi to take you to the airport at 4:30 in the morning or whatever time, when there probably won't be any Ubers around. The opposition's third speaker has spoken about efficiency being better and the economics behind that. But regulation isn't all that bad. There's a reason that not every government is as right-wing as Milton Friedman. We still have taxes, because we still need to regulate industries. We still need to ensure that things are safe. We still need to ensure that people are getting the service that they deserve, services that taxis provide. They also said that travelling long distances required more money in a taxi, and it is still more expensive in an Uber, but you could also take public transport, which in Adelaide is a flat fee for however far you travel. That's a cheap option. And they also said that there are still background tests, as the second speaker has said, but there are no fingerprint tests, and they can just fake it because you don't need to meet with Uber before you can become an Uber driver. They also said that only some drivers were bad eggs, but if you can't guarantee that every driver will be good, you probably shouldn't be letting in the industry. This is why airlines have such rigorous background checks on pilots, etc. Yes. In summary, our team tonight has spoken about why Uber should not be welcome in Adelaide. Our first speaker, Neha, has spoken about how it will put taxi drivers out of business. And it does the same thing. The Uber will do the same thing as taxis, but as our second speaker, Josh, has said, it will be less safe. It will also be a cost to the taxpayer, which could be better spent, and it will be less accessible for all people. Our second speaker, Josh, has spoken about the safety of Uber, or lack thereof, and how it is unregulated. There are no background checks, no cameras in an Uber, and therefore no assurance of safety in an Uber. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is simply not safe to take an Uber and not worth that risk, and so we should not be welcoming them in Adelaide. Thank you.
Please wait while the adjudicator finalises the result.
The adjudicators are just stepping out for an Uber.
Okay, so while we wait for the adjudicators to finalise the results, I'll just go through the notices. So, all grand final debates will be held in the House of Assembly Chamber, Parliament House, North Terrace, on Saturday the 24th of September. And the debate times for the senior division is 2 p.m. And we are still finalising the details of the presentations, which will occur for the winning and runner-up teams of the grand finals early in term 4. So as soon as the date and venue is confirmed, we will require all persons wishing to attend to register their details on our website. So please stay tuned for more information as it becomes available via email. And also, this is the last chance to get your tickets for the great debate on Saturday, the 22nd of October, which is 6 to 8:30 p.m, which promises to be a fun night of food. I think you've all heard this before. Yes, so yeah, purchase your tickets online or from the information desk. Just a final reminder. Okay.
Yeah, literally, but also
And then there was someone else that we asked. Very charming.
A lot of people out of businesses.
I'm really expressed. I remember Emily expressed. Yeah, and she was on the top. And we made it to a bubble. Yeah, but and I was
How we all
that's so politically correct.
What did you think of my 3 word slogans?
I love to read.
It's that untouched something. What do you say?
Unregulated. Unregulated. What is it? Unsure, unregulated. We did say.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry we took so long. The Uber driver got lost. It's a very interesting topic. Now, in semi-finals, what happens is that we have a panel of 3 adjudicators. We each individually adjudicate the debate, and then we compare notes and to see what the points of difference are. Sometimes it's a unanimous decision, all 3 are the same. Sometimes it's a majority decision. And tonight it was a split decision, but we had a very robust discussion about it. Some general comments. Can I congratulate all 6 debaters? You were excellent debaters tonight. And that standard is very, very high, and one thing we did agree on was a very, very close debate indeed. So well done to you all, and thank you for your contribution to participation in this year's competition. We hope to see you all next year. But unfortunately, in the end, there has to be one winner going into the grand final, and by a split decision of 2 to 1, the debate goes to the negative column. Unanimously, we did agree that the award for the most inspiring speaker tonight, not necessarily the best scoring speaker, but the most inspiring was for excellent rebuttal and passionate delivery, and she certainly did this, was Emily Reid.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
Thanks heaps to the opposition. It was a really good debate. Thanks for having such a great debate for us. Thanks to the audience for coming out. It was really good. Thank you very much to the adjudicators. Thank you. Thanks to everyone.
I call upon a member of the winning team to second that vote of thanks.
Yes, so thank you, Chairman Timekeeper, for all your work. Opposition team, yeah, fantastic debate. Definitely the best debate we've had all year. You guys are absolutely brilliant, and yeah, we'll see you at like university debating or whatever around. Yeah, audience, thank you. It's the biggest crowd I think we've had all year for our team, I think. But yeah, so that's really good. Mr. Putteney, thanks for coordinating with Skillful. Thanks for coaching throughout the year, but not tonight, obviously. Henry, thanks for coming out, and parents, obviously. I'm thorough with my thanks. Adjudicators, thank you for adjudicating and everything. Thank you for the result. But yeah, that was thanks to everybody for a really great debate, and yeah, look forward to. Thank you.
I call a member. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.